Hi, I'm Rich Miller. At Virtua, we believe citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support healthcare programming produced by the CAUCUS Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Virtua, MAGNACARE, TD Bank, Berkeley College, New Jersey Resources, Johnson & Johnson, and by KESSLER Foundation, changing the lives of people with disabilities. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com. And by Meadowlands Regional Chamber, building essential connections that drive business growth.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this.
You
got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No. People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, Steve Adubato here at the Tisch WNET studio in Lincoln Center. It is our honor to welcome Allison Blais, who is the Chief Operating Officer, the National September 11th Memorial and Museum, and the co-author of A Place of Remembrance. Good to have you with us, Allison.
Thank you so much for having me.
We were talking right before we got on the air. We had your CEO, Joe Daniels, on a couple of years ago, right in this studio. For folks who have not been to your place, describe it.
It's an extraordinary place. So it is 8 acres of the 16-acre World Trade Center site. The memorial itself is 2 pools that sit right within the footprints of the Twin Towers. They're about 1 acre in size, waterfalls that descend about 30 feet, and then go into a void that looks like it goes on for eternity. And surrounding the pools are the names of all 2,983 victims, arranged in a way that's unique from any other memorial in existence because they're with people who they knew and loved. And we went through a really extraordinary process with all of the victims' next of kin to figure out a way that would make that the most meaningful arrangement that it could be. And then the museum sits between the pools. There's a sort of entry pavilion that you go into, and then you actually go down below the memorial, and the museum itself is at the archaeological heart of the World Trade Center. So it's right there at bedrock of the site. You see the sawed-off box beam columns that made up the outline of the Twin Towers. You see the slurry wall that held back the Hudson River during the attacks. And you see all of these authentic remnants of what was there, and then the museum exhibits exist within that archaeological site.
How many people have been to the site?
We've had 23 million people to the memorial since we opened in September 2011. 23 million, and they've come from all over the world, 175 different nations, every state.
And it's interesting. I was asking you about this, so I want to talk about this on the air. I was talking about the ages of our kids.
Yeah.
2 of our younger boys are 11 and 13, and you talked about age appropriate. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's really important to us as an institution that we provide a way into the 9/11 story for parents, for teachers who have a really hard time and are scared to talk about something that's a really difficult topic with children. So we have all sorts of ways into the story. We have school and family programs that are in the museum itself in our classrooms. On weekends, our family programs are tailored to whatever age parents bring in. So for example, I was saying for your daughter, 5 years old, coming in, there would be something for her. We have these amazing educators who figure out what is the right thing for that particular family. So they might pull out sample FDNY badges and have her paint a badge and talk about what it means to be a hero, who firefighters are, read a children's book about firefighters. But there's always a way into the story, no matter what the age, no matter what the age is.
This book,
Yes.
A Place of Remembrance, official book of the National September 11th Memorial. Talk about it.
It was an incredible experience to write this book. I wrote it with a colleague of mine, Lynn Rassick, and it takes you through 9/11 and then all the way through the design, the building of the memorial, and now in the new edition we added a chapter to talk about building the museum as well. And for us, Lynn was on the project from the very beginning, just like I was. She was actually there on the day of 9/11 as Mayor Giuliani's press secretary. So we worked on it as we were working to build the memorial and open it. And we wanted to make sure that it was a really open and honest account of what happened all along the way to get there. So it talks about the successes, certainly, but it also talks about all of the different debates and setbacks and the really emotional discussions that were at the heart of building this, which of course they would be with so many people. Extraordinarily hard and challenging, although I will say, all the way through, no matter how challenging it got, this is a job that is just so rewarding, no matter what challenges you're going through, no matter how emotional they get, because it was all about resilience and recovery. So no matter what we decided to do as we move forward, we were moving forward to do something at the site that would show hope and healing, that would show that we can overcome, that we are resilient people and we can rebuild.
You know, we're doing this program at the end of 2015. We're moving into, we're getting closer to the 15th anniversary of this program we've seen before and after. What has happened in Paris is just devastating on so many levels. Does it make what is happening at the Memorial and Museum even more profound?
I think so. I think so many things happening in the world today just underscore the necessity of this museum and make it an even more powerful place, especially when you look at our public programming that's always addressing the current issues that are unfolding in this world post 9/11. You talked about Paris. We just earlier this week, we had a commemoration ceremony, and we had folks from all over the city come over. We had the former ambassador to France, Craig Stapleton, who serves on our board of directors, came, and the French consul general came, spoke about how after 9/11 in Paris, everybody was saying, we're all New Yorkers, we're all Americans. So for them to see at this very site where 9/11 happened, people coming together and saying, we're standing with you, Paris, I think was a really extraordinary way of saying that we're all in this together. And for them to see a glimmer of hope of what can happen, that you can rebuild and you can recover.
You know, as people are, and again, it's interesting when you do a program like this because we repeat their encore presentations, and so you never know what's going to be happening, and you always hope and pray and that nothing does happen, but you don't know. My question goes to the fear that people are experiencing and what you do every day with your colleagues. Do you think people want to try to, in some ways, because they're so afraid, forget 9/11?
I think there is an aspect of that, although I will say there are a lot of New Yorkers I've spoken to who say that that's part of the reason that they hesitated to come down to see the memorial and museum, that they felt that it would be too much bringing back those fears or too steeped in the day itself and the tragedy of it. And they're always surprised when they come downtown and they see the memorial and the museum that they leave with this sense of hope and that it's an uplifting experience. Because if you think about it, what happened on 9/11, it was this horrendous day where these 19 hijackers took the lives of so many people. But at the same time, there are thousands of stories of people coming together, people who were helping one another, all of the first responders who ran up in the buildings and saved tens of thousands of lives, and also just the civilians who did the same thing. And then the whole aftermath of the attacks, everybody coming through the 9-month recovery period, the guys who work down there day in and day out under unimaginable conditions, all of those stories are inspiring. They're all hopeful and uplifting. They're all about unity and people coming together and showing the best of humanity.
Before I let you go, what has this job, what has this experience done for you and to you?
It's so hard to describe. It's been the privilege of a lifetime. It's really it's nothing I ever would have thought that I would have been a part of, and the fact that I've been fortunate enough to play a tiny role in what's happened downtown is just extraordinary. It's been amazing to be part of. I've met so many gracious people who've led us into their lives, told us their stories, and allowed us to make that part of this historical museum.
And why should people come down to the museum?
I think you just have to understand what happened on that day, and you have to remember what came out of it, and that it was the best of humanity responding in the worst conditions.
Allison Blais, Chief Operating Officer, the National September 11th Memorial and Museum, and co-author of A Place of Remembrance. I want to thank you for being here with us, and wish you nothing but the best down in Lower Manhattan. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Stay with us from the Tisch WNET studio here in Midtown. We'll be right back after this.
Visit us online at steveadubato.org. Email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/SteveAdubato.PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
I think people need to rediscover Yogi Berra. This was one of the most formidable baseball players in history. You look at baseball as a whole, this is a great man. He was the best catcher in baseball, hit 358 home runs, numerous MVPs.
Hall of Famer.
Superb baseball smart, superb player, very good man, believed in diversity, believed in education, fought for our country in World War II. What's not to like? In this day and age, what an inspiration.
Yogi was the best. And young lady who's seen on camera knows better than anyone. Lindsay Berra, Yogi's granddaughter, also a columnist with MLB.com. Your grandfather was the best.
I agree wholeheartedly.
For so many reasons. When did you know he was Yogi Berra?
You know, I tell people this all the time. Even when he passed away, now just 6 weeks ago, the outpouring of support and how many people knew who he was, I was even amazed by that. So I know he's Yogi Berra, but I know that's his name. When I was a kid, I knew he was the manager of the Yankees. I was old before I realized that he was also a famous person. Like, even into my teens, I didn't realize how famous he was. But when he passed away, that was a major reality check, just realizing how famous he was, how far his reach went. You know, when I say I love my grandfather and someone comes up to me and says, I loved your grandfather too, they mean it. And they loved him as much as I did. And they're not kidding. And that was a really amazing, sobering thing to really understand what his reach was like.
Yeah, you connect on so many levels. By the way, as we do this program right around Thanksgiving, this will air many times after that, Yogi's just awarded the Medal of Freedom.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
It's a really big deal, and we were afraid that we weren't going to get it for him. We started a petition in May around his 90th birthday. We had to get 100,000 signatures on it in the 30-day period that whitehouse.gov gives you to complete those things, and we got them on June 8th, and then some. We got 110,000. But that was on June 8th, and they didn't announce until just this past Monday, November 17th, I think, that he was going to get it. So we were sweating it out a little bit. I am not a little sad about the fact that he's not here to get it himself, but we're still very proud and very happy that he is going to receive the medal.
Lindsay, growing up in Montclair, we're neighbors in town, known each other for a while, and Montclair is a town that, Yogi and Carmen were Montclair, and it's hard for people to understand this. It's because Yogi was also taken in by this entire country. Tell folks who may not appreciate or understand this how they were embraced by everyone in the town, and also Yogi's funeral at Immaculate Conception Church happens to be a church I know well.
I was talking with Harold Reynolds the other day, and he calls it Yogiville. I live in Yogiville.
Yeah. He lives,
Yeah, and Harold lives down. He's a neighbor, too.
Right.
I think that because my grandparents were such normal folks, Grandpa did everything for himself. He went and got his own coffee.
He used to go to Henry's.
At Henry's Market every morning, got the papers, picked up his own dry cleaning. They ate out a lot, so they were at restaurants. They were very visible, very accessible. So anyone who lived in Montclair has a Yogi story, has a picture with my grandpa, has been to his house. They hand out candy on Halloween. They used to get a horse and buggy outside the house on Thanksgiving, and anybody who wanted to bring their kids could come up, and my grandmother would have them in the house, giving them a glass of champagne. They were just normal folks really out there and liked to have fun in the community that they lived in. So yeah, everybody knew him there.
Yeah, talking about taking pictures of Yogi, you've never seen this shot. I was at the opening of the stadium. Take a look at that shot. Yeah. So that's
Look
me.
at all that hair.
Yeah, I know. Take a look at, that's our son Steven, who is 23 right now.
Wow.
Okay? The opening of the stadium.
Yep.
Right? Yogi Berra Stadium and the museum there. To tell folks what that complex is and tell folks how significant that is at Montclair State University.
So it's the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center. That place opened when I was 21, so yeah, it's 17, 18 years ago now, which is crazy. It is attached to Yogi Berra Stadium, which is where the Montclair State baseball team and the New Jersey Jackals of the Can-Am League, they play there. But the museum is terrific. It serves 20,000 school kids a year, teaches character education programs to basically any age kid that wants to come through, teaches grandpa's values of leadership, inclusion, sportsmanship, loyalty, being a nice person, and it really has become my grandfather's legacy.
Yeah, by the way, for those of you who've never been to the museum, check it out. It's extraordinary. It really is. A little bit more about your family, your grandmother, Carmen and Yogi were this amazing couple. It was 65 years?
65 years, yeah.
Describe that marriage.
It really is unlike anything I've ever seen. People are not married for 65 years anymore, and they were such an extension of the other. I mean, I'm very happy he did, but I'm amazed that he made it 18 months without her once she passed away. They really were just incredible. She'll say the reason they were married for 65 years was because Grandpa played baseball and was gone for half of those days. But he loved her so much. We have, if anyone ever does come to the museum and you read the love letters that he wrote to her, 1948 on hotel stationery, and they're so sweet and sappy. They say things like, "My dearest darling, I can't go another moment without you. However will I last until I see you again? I went 3 for 4 today."
Hold on. Yogi wrote these
Yogi wrote my grandmother love letters, yep. And they're on like hotel stationery, little, with the hotel seal at the top in his perfect penmanship for a guy who dropped out of school in the 8th grade. He's got this beautiful script. And my grandmother, for years, wouldn't let us see them. We knew they existed. And when we renovated the museum, we said, "Gram, we're going to have this whole wall, and it's designated for the love letters. Are you going to give them to us?" And it took to the last minute, but she did. She turned them over.
You have been into sports, and you know sports. You write about it. You understand it on a lot of levels. I'm going to, if you could, as a obsessed Yankee fan, and our president, Neil Shapiro, will appreciate this as well, and all Yankee fans will appreciate this, and those who love Yogi. I'm going to throw out some names.
Okay.
Who I know people who Yogi had close relationships with, and I want you to talk about it.
Okay.
And the first that is a powerful relationship is Phil Rizzuto. Talk about it.
Phil Rizzuto is my father's godfather. My dad, Larry, is my grandparents' oldest son. They became friends, right when Grandpa got to New York. Grammy was really good friends with Cora Rizzuto. They opened a bowling alley together.
The Rizzuto Barra Bowl on Route 3.
Lanes, where Romance Emporium was, right? Yeah,
Clifton, New Jersey.
Yeah, Clifton. Yeah, they were great friends for forever, and my uncles and my dad were friends with all the kids, and yeah.
Is it true that when Phil Rizzuto was in an assisted living facility very late in his life, that Yogi used to go and visit him, they'd play cards, and Yogi would wait until Phil would fall asleep? Yep.
I think he was doing it once or twice a week there at the end. They were buddies. They just...
Like for real?
Oh, for real. And all of those Yankee teammates, they were close, those guys. And my grandmother, by the way, did the same for Cora when she was in assisted living.
Whitey Ford.
Whitey just makes me laugh. He's
Why?
great. Because he's just so funny. He's hilarious. He taught me to line dance when I was a kid at the Hall of Fame. When Stan Musial would play the harmonica, Stan tried to teach me to play the harmonica and declared me useless. So Whitey taught me to line dance, and we would line dance while Stan played the harmonica.
What do you were around these people?
Oh, yeah, as a kid, growing up, for sure. They were my grandfather's friends. You were around your grandfather's friends, right?
And he taught you how to line dance, but you couldn't.
No. Well, no, in line dancing, I was okay. I couldn't play the harmonica.
I couldn't play the harmonica.
But no, Whitey was... We saw him at Old Timers Day. My dad is good friends with young Eddie Ford, and I'm good friends with their grandson, youngest Eddie Ford.
Right.
Yeah, just great lifetime friendships there.
The other, there'll be a picture that they drop in a little bit later on, but I was always interested in this. I have a picture of Yogi and Elston Howard. I was always struck by that relationship because Elston Howard was the first African-American player with the Yankees. And from what I understand, your grandfather really took him in.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
My grandfather and Ellie were very close, and that relationship went on until Ellie died, and we're also still good friends with Arlene Howard, his wife, Cheryl, his daughter. Grandpa used to go eat at restaurants with Ellie in Florida because Ellie wasn't allowed to go to the white restaurants. I think Grandpa did that. It's really an example of what a special person Grandpa was. He never saw color. Most colorblind human being you'll ever meet in your entire life. He was friends with Jackie Robinson, Elston, Minnie Minoso, the first Black and Latin players, and I always say was on the right side of the color line when it was the wrong place to be, and helped kind of push civil rights in baseball, which in turn did that in the country, which is one of the things I kept saying when we were trying to get him the Medal of Freedom. But his relationship with Ellie was a lifelong friendship, and it didn't matter black or white. The fact that Ellie was his backup for a while and then ended up taking Grandpa's place, none of that mattered. They were just buddies.
You know what's so interesting about the way you describe your grandfather? He didn't speak a lot. I remember the first time I interviewed him one-on-one, before one-on-one came to public television. We were at another network, and he came down with Dale, your uncle. He comes down with Dale, and he does the interview, but he's giving me one-word answers, which I know you're familiar with.
He makes you work hard.
Right, he makes me work really hard, and I'm thinking to myself, Yogi doesn't want to be here. He doesn't really want to do the interviews, and I would see them every once in a while in those situations where if he didn't want to open up, he wouldn't open up. But the fact is, you see, when you talked about him and the civil rights, he was a leader, but he didn't have to make a speech.
No. Grandpa was just one of those. I mean, and I think it's rare and extraordinary, and I don't know that I've seen it again, especially not in another athlete. He just did the right thing all the time because it was the right thing to do. He just had this
he grew
moral
up in St.
compass.
Louis?
You know, he grew up in St. Louis on the Hill. His parents came from Italy. He was born here.
I hate to call it if I can say, would they call it? They called it Dago Hill.
Yes, they did call it Dago Hill. He grew up down the street from Joe
Garagiola,
right? And Jack Buck, and his brothers worked so Grandpa could quit his job to go play baseball. I think that he felt very fortunate to even have been able to play baseball because they were poor and everybody in the family needed to contribute, and his brothers worked these doubles, so he was able to play. And I think he just knew where he came from, and he was always very grateful for that. And I think his parents taught him about showing respect for people, for other people, for where you came from, for where they came from. And I don't think he had to try very hard at it. He was just a good guy.
A couple other people I want to ask you one more thing. Yeah. I want to make sure I get this question asked. Lindsay, how would you want your grandfather, Yogi Berra, to be remembered?
People ask me this a lot, too. I got a little frustrated when they had the MLB, had the 4 guys on the field at the All-Star game, and it was, I'm going to mess it up, it was Hank Aaron, Sandy Koufax, Johnny Bench, and Willie Mays. And they had them as the 4 greatest living players. And I said, wait a minute, where's Grandpa? I mean, he won more World Series than these guys combined. And, you know, the stats are there, what's going on? And the problem is that younger people who vote online didn't see Grandpa play, and they don't quite remember his impact on the field. And I would love for them to remember some of those amazing stats that he had: 597 at-bats and 12 strikeouts in 1951. That's insane. That will never. Ryan Howard strikes out 12 times in a weekend, right? So, like, those things I would love for them to remember. But really, I think Grandpa's legacy is what we teach at the museum, that being great on the field is fine, but being a good person is the most important thing. And I always say, if people that know who he was just kind of think about how he would behave, and they're nice to their neighbors and good to everyone they meet and show people the same kind of respect, his legacy is in that behavior, and he will live forever. So,
let me ask about you a little bit.
Sure.
How'd you get into sports writing? You were just a kid when you did it.
I did. It was my mother's idea. I didn't know what to do in college, and she said, well, you're great at English and you can write, so why don't you be a sports writer? And for lack of a better idea, I said, okay. I went to journalism school at North Carolina and started at ESPN magazine right out of college. I was there for 13 years, and I've been at MLB for 3 now.
You love sports.
I do.
Why?
I don't really think I had a choice.
In the blood.
Yeah. I mean, my mother's father was a basketball official, and you know, Grandpa, Yogi, I watched, you know, manage, and Dale was playing baseball, and my dad played baseball, and they all loved hockey. I started skating as a kid. I played hockey my whole life. It was what we did. My mother, you know, wasn't big on letting us watch TV, so go outside, play with the balls and the sticks and stuff that we have. That's me playing in Wayne Gretzky's fantasy camp.
That's you.
Yeah, it's me. I scored a couple goals off of Wayne, but it's not, or with Wayne, it's not very hard to score when you're with Wayne Gretzky. You go, you park yourself back door, and he basically banks the puck in off your stick and makes you look really awesome.
He made you look good.
Yeah, he did.
Before I let you go, I just want to do this. You know, it's so interesting. With sports figures that become popular, if you will, for short periods of time for certain kinds of things, it's hard to actually have heroes. It's hard to have people who endure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, Yogi Berra was 90, right? Mm-hmm. My sense is that many, many years from now, people will still be talking about him well beyond his passing. Mm-hmm. Do you think it has as much to do with who he was as a human being, as a person, beyond those incredible statistics you just talked about?
I do think so. I think that anybody who was alive to see him play does tell some pretty amazing stories, and they trickle down. I had a 13-year-old kid come up to me and say, "Your grandfather's my favorite player ever." And he's 13. Like, there's no way he ever saw him play. And I say, well, then your dad and your grandpa must be doing a really good job of telling you how good he was. But especially in this area where almost everybody has a story of interacting with my grandfather, I think that that's what really carries him. And people know about his service in the D-Day invasion, about what he did, you know, after he stopped playing with the museum.
Sure.
And I think that he's out there enough, and the Yogisms, come on, every president since Kennedy has quoted those things, so they're going to be around for a long time.
Can I give you Yogism? Bob, what did he say here when he was here on public television? He was pledging for public broadcasting. He said, what did he say? He said, if you can't make a pledge, just send money. I knew you'd like that.
Of course. Listen, he did, right?
Thank you. You're terrific.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you coming in.
If you can't make a pledge.
If you can't make a pledge, send money.
Anybody wants to send me money can send me money. Go ahead.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Virtua, MAGNACARE, TD Bank, Berkeley College, New Jersey Resources, Johnson & Johnson, and by KESSLER Foundation. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
At Virtua, we don't cut the quad tendon for knee replacement, so you don't have to cut anything you love to do. It's what we don't cut that counts. The Virtua Joint Replacement Institute. Visit GotMyLifeBack.org today.